On Tech News Today, tweets are coming back to Google Search. Swatch is entering the smartwatch racket. And Twitter CEO finally makes a statement about troll control on Twitter. His statement? We suck. We've got tech journalists from NPR, Search Engine Roundtable, and TechCrunch, so stick around. Tech News Today is next.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CacheFly at CacheFly.com.
This is Tech News Today for Thursday, February 5th, 2015. This episode is brought to you by Prosper. Prosper is a peer-to-peer lending marketplace that connects people who are looking to borrow money with those who have money to lend. Visit prosper.com/twit and receive a $50 Visa prepaid card when you get a loan. And by Personal Capital. With Personal Capital, you can grow and protect your wealth. Best of all, it's free. And for a limited time, Twit viewers and listeners could qualify for up to $10,000 on any new account. To sign up, go to personalcapital.com/TNT. Tech News Today is the show where we talk about the tech news with the journalists who report it. Welcome to the Twituation Room. I'm Mike Elgan, and with us as co-anchor is NPR technology and culture reporter Elise Hugh. How are you, Elise?
I'm doing great, Mike. I don't know about that Twituation Room joke, but otherwise doing great.
I'm Mike Blitzer. Yeah, it's bad humor, as you, I think, accused me once on Twitter. It's dad humor, let's face it. It's a dad joke. All right, well, let's jump into the news. Why not? We're all here. Tweets will soon make their triumphant return to Google search results. The companies have reportedly struck a deal for Google to access the Twitter firehose once again. Barry Schwartz is the publisher of Search Engine Roundtable, and he joins us now to talk about this. How are you doing, Barry?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty details, can you take us back to the glory days of 2011 and the history of Twitter tweets on Google? Why did they turn the Twitter firehose on in the first place, and why did they turn it off again?
So I think back in 2009 or so, they struck a deal together where Google would actually go ahead and have access to the firehose of tweets. Google then built an infrastructure to support something called real-time search, which pulled in a lot of different sources, but mostly Twitter, because Twitter has the most amount of content that's in real time. Then all of a sudden, without warning, in July of 2011, it just went offline. All the real-time search results just went offline. Google told us it was because their deal has expired and they didn't renew it. So that's like the history behind it. It used to be very useful to find really useful content. Twitter back in 2011, their search engine was very, very limited in terms of what you could find using Twitter search. But now Twitter search has been pretty aggressive in increasing the features and capability of their search engine.
So, Barry, why now that Twitter search has improved itself is Google bringing it back?
That's a good question. I remember, I think it was Matt Cutts, you guys know him, the head of Google Search Spam or the search quality team. He said he was a little bit annoyed by the whole situation. I'm not quoting him exactly, because they spent all this time and money and engineering time building an infrastructure around a single source of data, the Twitter firehose, to build this real-time search, and then all of a sudden it was taken away, and they probably would never do something like that again, where they would rely on a licensing deal to power such an important part of Google's search algorithm. So I'm not really sure why they're doing it. Obviously, doing a deal with Twitter is good in terms of the PR out there, but I don't know why the engineers would want to go ahead and go through this process again. Of course, these are just rumors right now. Bloomberg reported it. Google has not confirmed it. Twitter has not yet confirmed it. They might confirm it any minute now, but Bloomberg is a pretty good source.
Former Googler Pedro Dias also had something to say about this. What did he say?
So he posted on Twitter. His background. He works. I guess he worked under the team with Matt Cutts, one of the Webmaster Trends analysts, and he basically said something that I believe Matt said in the past. But he basically said on Twitter, in the past, Google built the whole infrastructure to plug Twitter's firehose, only for them to bail out 1 year later. So he's just annoyed that Google will go ahead and do a deal like this again. So if it's the same deal, and if they build all this new technology to plug in that firehose, to go ahead and lose that content over a licensing deal again would be just a waste of Google's time when they could do other things.
Now, the memo from Twitter CEO Dick Costolo just was broken last night, essentially him admitting that trolls and spam have been a big problem on Twitter. So how does that Twitter problem now affect Google search results now that if this report is indeed true?
It's interesting. So obviously Google's pretty good at spam. In my post on the Search Engine Roundtable, I commented how there's this black hat SEO community of search engine optimization people that try to game Google search results. And they're looking for ways, they're all excited about this because they're looking for ways to go ahead and say, oh, right, or there's a new place that we could get our content in that would get into Google quickly. And they're looking at how can we go ahead and use this as a way of spamming Google and obviously the search results. But at the same time, Google is really, really good when it comes to search spam. And I'm sure whatever algorithms they have in terms of web search in general, they'll apply those same type of algorithms for blocking real-time search spam as they would for non-real-time web search spam.
Barry, you told me before the show started that you recently had triplets. Wow, that is amazing. What's it like to be the parent of you already had 2 kids and now you have 3 more. What's it like to be a parent of triplets? I mean, you only have 2 hands.
I honestly hired an additional 2 people to help out my wife. So, I sleep at night. I'm sleeping better at night now than I was with having singletons, I guess.
Because you're more exhausted.
Honestly, I'm not. I have nurses in the house. I have 2 full-time nurses in the house. So
wonderful.
Barry Schwartz, as Russ Feingold would say, Molotov.
As in cocktail. Barry Schwartz is at SEOroundtable.com. He's at rustybrick.com, and you can follow him on Twitter at rustybrick. Thanks for joining us, Barry.
Thank you.
All right. Well, in just a sec, we got some more news for you. But first, let's talk about Prosper. Prosper is a peer-to-peer lending marketplace. It's the original peer-to-peer lending marketplace. You can borrow up to $35,000 in as few as 5 days. And you borrow it not from the bank, not from your uncle. You borrow it from investors, people who want to invest in you. You can pay off high rate credit cards. You can fix up your house, pay off medical bills. If somebody gets married, you're going to need a lot of money for that. You can buy a new car, whatever you want to use it for, and it's easy to do. Here's how you do it. You just choose a loan amount. You indicate the purpose, and you post a loan listing, and then investors can choose your loan listing to invest in it. It's all anonymous. Your name and personally identifiable information is not put there, just what you want to borrow money for, etc. And then borrowers make fixed monthly payments, and investors get paid back. And that's one of the cool things about this. One of the reasons that Prosper is so successful and growing so fast is that it's a great place to invest your money. You get a better return than your typical investment options. More than 2 million members and more than $2 billion in funded loans. Just go to prosper.com/twit and get a $50 Visa prepaid card when you get a loan. For a limited time, Prosper is offering Twit fans a $50 Visa prepaid card when you get a loan. Just go to prosper.com/twit, and that's a special site for the Twit Army. Up to $35,000 in just 5 days and a $50 Visa prepaid card. Go to prosper.com/twit. Don't forget the /twit part. Anthem, which is one of the country's biggest health insurance companies, told customers yesterday that hackers nabbed the personal information of dozens of millions of customers. Kat Zakrewski writes for TechCrunch and wrote about this story on that site. Welcome to you, Kat.
Hi, thanks so much for having me on the show.
Thanks for being on the show. Now, another day, another ginormous personal data theft. What kind of data did they steal?
So it seems like this hack, they mostly access personal information of the customer. So we're talking about things like street addresses, email addresses, and more serious things like social security numbers and also financial records, so information about income data and that type of thing. However, in this hack, they did not, at this time, Anthem does not think that the hackers accessed any health records. So that's somewhat of a silver lining in this report of yet another hack that affected so many people.
Kat, what do we know about how hackers got into the system and where this particular hack originated? Obviously, there's been a lot of these previous mega hacks have come from Russia, Ukraine, that area, and China. So what do we know about the source so far?
So from what I've seen from Anthem on their website and press releases so far today, they said they're working closely with the FBI, but they have not yet identified the source of the attack or the particular hacking group. That's as of the last time I checked this morning. They said that they would be updating customers throughout the day. They set up a special website called anthemfacts.com where you can go for the latest information on this hack.
Dr. Mom in the chat room says that everything nabbed was a HIPAA violation since personally identifiable information is protected. Thank you for that, Dr. Mom. She is a very knowledgeable person and always in the chat room. Now, Anthem is
actually, Dr. Mom brings up a really important point because I was actually speaking with a reinsurer, so the insurers of insurers against data hacks, and she was talking about how when there are possible HIPAA violations, this becomes a federal civil rights investigation, and of those, and this usually happens with medical hacks, and of those, there have only been 30 or so over the last 8 years, affecting about 30 million people. This, in this case, this hack alone has affected 80 million, just to get a sense of the scale of this particular hack. So thanks, Dr. Mom.
Yeah, it's an enormous issue, and it raises the issue of, you know, the victims of hacks like this, also the Sony Pictures hack, which itself is leading to a class action lawsuit. It's an underappreciated aspect of this. I mean, there's a lot of talk about the company, how it damages the company, and that sort of thing. But you know, it's really the biggest problem is for the people whose data is actually being compromised. Now, Anthem is often sold under an array of sub-brands, including Anthem Blue Cross, and Blue Shield, Blue Cross and Blue Shield of Georgia, Empire Blue Cross, et cetera, Blue Cross, Blue Shield, this, that, and the other thing. There's a bunch of different brands. Some of them include AmeriGroup, CareMore, Unicare, HealthLink, and DCare. Kat, were these customers affected as well, or were they not affected?
Yes, they said it potentially affected customers over a wide array of the brands that you just mentioned. So this is something that wasn't just contained to one brand. We're seeing customers across the country affected by this. So Anthem has said that they're going to individually contact customers who have been affected by this breach. They're also going to be offering services to these customers that would help them monitor their personal information and their credit to make sure that there's no problems there, even though at this time they don't think that the hack affected payment information.
Kat Zakrewski is at TechCrunch.com, and you can follow her on Twitter at @Kat_Zakrewski. It's just like it sounds. Thanks for joining us, Kat.
Thanks so much for having me on the show. I appreciate it.
All right, I appreciate it too. Swatch is planning to launch a smartwatch in the next few months. Swatch SmartWatch, a smotch? Anyway, the news comes from a comment made by Swatch CEO Nick Hayek in an interview published yesterday. The smartwatch is expected to include mobile payment capabilities and come with Windows and Android apps, no iOS app as far as I know. Elise, this is kind of a expected thing. We've heard rumors about this. Now it's been confirmed by the CEO. They said 2 or 3 months. That's beyond the Apple Watch and of course, time frame. And of course, the Apple Watch is the elephant in the living room here.
Yeah, and it's entering quite a crowded field of competitors that are primarily tech companies, Swatch being a watch company. So I think it's going to be tough competition. It
absolutely is. And, it's good competition. We want this kind of competition, especially from watchmakers. We see a lot of smartwatches coming from phone makers, the people who would normally make, smartphones and so on. It's great to see the watch community, if you will, get on board instead of just hiding under their desks and wondering whether or not their entire industry is going to be essentially replaced by these gadget companies. Well, in just a sec, we got more follow-ups for you, but first, let's talk about our other sponsor today, Personal Capital. Personal Capital is a place where you can bring together all of your financial information to a single place so you can get a handle on it. It gives you intuitive information. And we've talked about the benefits of this that go on and on. They're just fantastic, including the Android Wear smartwatch app, very high-tech stuff. But they have a low-tech, relatively low-tech way for you to keep in touch with your money. And it's basically a weekly email. Now you think, well, a weekly email, what's the big deal with that? These emails are revelatory, I can tell you. They're beautifully formatted with charts, graphs. They're color-coded. It's like a really high-tech website design, but it's in an email. And it tells you your spending this month versus last month. It's telling you how your income is doing compared to last year. It tells you your yield index. It just goes on and on, all this information, and you get it weekly. And so every single week you can plug in, and I personally have always been surprised by the data. People walk around with a vague notion of what's happening with their investments, with their income, with their spending, all that kind of stuff. And what Personal Capital does is with this weekly email, is they get you in touch with what's going on. If you see that your income is down and your spending is up, you know what to do. And if you see that the reverse is true, you know what to do there. You can go have a great weekend on the town because you're doing really well financially. But this is a fantastic service, this email thing. It's just one of the many ways that they keep you in touch with your money. Go to Personal Capital now and set up your free account. And for a limited time, if you qualify, Personal Capital will give you $100 for every $100,000 you deposit, up to $10,000. That's personalcapital.com/TNT. And if you sign up, make sure you get the weekly email. And we thank Personal Capital for their support of Tech News Today. And I personally thank Personal Capital for all the money they've saved me. They really have. It's really a great, great service. Well, some follow-ups for you. The South Korean government today rejected Uber's proposal for a new driver registration system that would have allowed Uber drivers to operate legally in South Korea. Instead, the government said they're going to ban Uber because they already have too many taxis. Elise, Hugh, you're moving to Seoul, Korea pretty soon. Do you agree with that? Do they have too many transportation options there for Uber?
They actually do have many transportation options. So there's that. And also, Uber has been competitive in places where cabs are inefficient or the drivers don't know their cities or cost too much. What I found in Seoul was actually that the taxis are quite cheap and affordable. So it seems like it would be a difficult market for Uber to enter, whether it was banned or not.
I've been to Seoul, Korea, but I've never been to, I've never taken a taxi in Seoul, Korea. I have done so in Tokyo, and Tokyo cab drivers, it's a fantastic experience. They have like this white sheet that covers the back of the chair, and the drivers wear white gloves, and it's almost like being in a limo experience. Is it like that in Seoul, Korea as well? Are the taxis really nice?
I haven't been in one that's super fancy or anything, but they do get you where you need to go. These drivers know where know their roads, and they know their city really well. And it really doesn't cost very much money to get around town. So yeah. I can't see Uber being hugely popular just out of the gate in the way that it was in, say, Washington, D.C., where none of those things are true about the taxis.
Yeah, exactly. Well, in other Uber news, Uber's adding 2 safety features to its app for Indian users in the wake of rape allegations against an Uber driver in December. One is an in-app panic button, which alerts local police, and the other is location sharing, which enables each passenger to tell up to 5 people where they are. Elise, Hugh, I think this is absolutely brilliant. Now, there were calls for there to be a physical panic button installed in the cars themselves, which I thought was a terrible idea because for 2 reasons. First of all, Uber drivers in India tend to work multiple, they swap around cars, they use multiple cars sometimes. And the other part of it is that the driver has some control over the functionality of that panic button. The drivers who are planning to sexually assault passengers, for example, might want to disable that button, whereas they won't be able to disable the functionality on the app. But what do you think of this as a solution to the problem of assault by drivers in India?
Well, it's a tech solution for a specific problem, sexual assault by drivers, but it doesn't really solve the cultural problem of sexual assaults in India in general. So even if the tech problem does increase reporting, for instance, the cultural problem of whether police react or whether they believe the women remains. And so I guess my reaction is mixed.
Yeah, it might help a little bit. I agree with you. Obviously, there's going to be a lot of change that's needed there culturally, legally, and so on. And so hopefully more of those will get sorted out. In the meantime, I'd love to see this functionality rolled out globally. I just think it's a great idea to be able to push a button. The police might not like it because, a lot of people take Uber cars when they're drunk, right? And so when people are drunk, they might accidentally push the panic button, or they might do it because they're drunk. And it might just call a lot of false alarms by the police. But generally speaking, it seems like a good idea when you get into a car with a stranger, no matter what, that people know where you are and that you can call for help if you need to. Just a thought. Well, we've got some product updates for you. Netflix announced plans yesterday to launch in Japan in the fall of 2015. Now, Japan, Elise, is going to be part of your beat.
My remit,
right?
Yes.
So what do you think? Are they going to succeed in Japan?
I don't know what the competing products are in Japan right now when it comes to streaming video services, but they would succeed with me as a customer, that's for sure. I've been really sad about losing my Netflix subscription or functionality abroad because it doesn't work when you're, say, in London. So welcome to Japan, Netflix.
And if you get an account in Japan, I guess when you're there traveling to do a story or whatever, it's deductible. You know what I'm saying? So
good point.
So Elise, you have to run. I know you've got a lot of things to do, so we're going to say goodbye to you. Thank you so much for co-anchoring today.
Thank you guys, and thank you viewers, and we'll see you next week.
All right,
I'll see you next week. Okay, bye.
And I'll do the rest of the show all by myself. Well, people in the news, I've been harping on Twitter for months about their lousy troll control features. Now, Twitter CEO Dick Costolo is owning it, at least privately. Costolo wrote in an internal memo to Twitter employees obtained by The Verge that troll troubles are driving users off Twitter. And he even went so far as to admit, quote, "We suck at dealing with abuse and trolls on the platform, and we've sucked at it for years. It's no secret, and the rest of the world talks about it every day. We lose core user after core user by not addressing simple trolling issues that they face every day, and I'm frankly ashamed of how poorly we've dealt with this issue," unquote. That's exactly what I've been saying on this show, and I've said it on This Week in Google a couple of months ago, and it's nice to see the CEO of Twitter saying it, although I wish he'd say it in public, but there you go. I hope they do something about it. Well, in mergers and acquisitions, Under Armour announced 2 acquisitions yesterday. The sport clothing company bought mobile fitness app maker MyFitnessPal for $475 million, and a company called Endomondo for $85 million. Under Armour had previously bought MapMyFitness and recently unveiled its own fitness platform called UA Record. The company is also working with HTC to create a range of fitness trackers, which are expected later in the year. Now, this is an indication that this company, which I characterize as a clothing company, is becoming a technology company. They've pretty much been doing that for a while. They've had fitness, heart rate monitors and stuff like that, and they have some vision videos that are pretty high tech that show their vision of where clothes are going in the future, augmented, wearable computing type of clothing for people who are into fitness and for professional athletes. So it'd be exciting to follow what they do with these acquisitions. In another acquisitions news, Microsoft is acquiring Sunrise, which makes a popular calendar app for iOS and Android devices, and British telecoms giant BT has agreed to buy the UK's biggest mobile carrier, EE, for $19 billion. The deal gives BT-EE, just kidding, it's going to be called BT, 31 million customers, and makes the company Europe's largest 4G provider. And finally, Google is buying Launchpad Toys, a company that makes software for kids to create what they call digital toys and tools for the creation and sharing of animated stories. We've got some courtroom drama for you. Suspected Silk Road chief Ross Ulbricht was convicted on narcotics and other charges yesterday. The 30-year-old was found guilty by a Manhattan federal jury on all 7 counts he faced. Prosecutors claimed Ulbricht was the Silk Road's Dread Pirate Roberts, not to be confused with the Princess Bride one, who ran Silk Road. Ulbricht claimed he started the network, but then turned control over to other people. Prosecutors said no, he never turned over control. Silk Road used the anonymizing Tor network to enable anonymous buying of stuff, including illegal stuff, using Bitcoin. Ulbricht faces life in prison and a mandatory minimum term of 20 years. His sentencing is scheduled for May 15th. A U.S. district court yesterday fined Ryan Seacrest's Typo Products company $860,600 for violating an injunction barring it from selling a $99 iPhone case found to have infringed on BlackBerry patents. Was it worth it, Ryan? I ask you. Come on. I've heard that that's a pretty cool keyboard, though. In News You Can Lose, we told you a few times about the popular Kim Kardashian Hollywood game from Glue Mobile. Now the company is working on a new mobile game based on Katy Perry. The game should be available in Q4, and I, for one, hope that Left Shark is a character in the game. Thank you for that, Jason. That little audio illustration there. Our TNT fan of the day is Fernando C. James Jr., who posted this picture on Google+. He says he watched TNT while getting his vehicle serviced recently, and he said he wanted them to take longer on his car so he could watch the show longer. How do you watch or listen to TNT? Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup and post it on Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag #HowIWatchTNT, and we will find it. And that is the Tech News Today. You can subscribe to Tech News Today the old-fashioned way, via RSS. You can choose your favorite way to subscribe at twit.tv/TNT, and you can watch us live every weekday at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, 1800 UTC at live.twit.tv, or on the app or browser plugin of your choice. If you're ever in the Western Hemisphere, come on in and watch us live. And follow us on Twitter at Tech News Today TV. If you're a technology news fan, and I know you are, come hang out with us in our Google Plus community. Just search Google Plus for Tech News Today. And please send us your thoughts and opinions to TNT@twit.tv or call 260-TNT-SHOW. And don't miss our evening newscast, Tech News Tonight, at 4 p.m. Pacific tonight and every weeknight right here on the Twit Network. My name's Mike Elgan. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.